Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm finally going to be dropping a good version of What If Deku was an Otsutsuki, because I'm not going to lie, I've done this before, and after rewatching both of them, they're both pretty garbage. So after rethinking the direction of the story, I came up with this absolute banger of a part 1. So ladies and gentlemen, if you guys go on to enjoy this video where Deku has these crazy Otsutsuki powers, then hit the like button, because if this video somehow manages to break 1,000 likes in 24 hours, then I guarantee that I'm going to be dropping the full movie of this as the next video to come out. So ladies and gentlemen, good luck with that, and with no further ado, enjoy. We begin our story off in a distant planet in the galaxy. A young Izuku in Otsutsuki years would be flying around his world, making his way home from the Otsutsuki Academy. I'd like to think that they have some sort of weird home planet where they all go back to base, and like they kind of have like this academy where they teach them how to destroy planets and stuff like that. Like they're kind of just warmongering kind of like creatures that just go around decimating planets and sucking the energy out of them for the chakra fruits. And that Izuku just so happens to be part of this school because he's like one of the younger Otsutsuki, which obviously means that he's not going to be the son of Inko or Hiyashi. In fact, in this timeline, I thought it'd be kind of a funny twist if I was to make him the son of Kaguya Otsutsuki, and that the events of the story could happen kind of like as an alternate timeline type thing. You get what I mean? But anyways, as Izuku would get home putting his things down, he would go over towards his mother and she would ask him how it went. He would tell her that things went great, as she would go on to tell him that she has great news. She would go on to explain to him that she has pretty much gotten him his first planet to conquer, explaining that it should be a weak planet and it should be a good starting point for him, considering that not many of the other Otsutsuki are going to have a planet lined up immediately. But because she's his mother, she pretty much has access to, pulling a couple of strings for him. She'd pretty much be like, "Are you excited?" Kind of like in a monotone voice. And Izuku just kind of looks at her and he's like, "Yes, ma'am." As she would like look at him, she's like, "You don't seem excited." Izuku just stares at her and asks, "Why do we do this? What need is there for us to go to other planets and pillage them, steal the fruit that the planet will produce and leave? Why?" And she would look at him and say, "Are you questioning the Otsutsuki god?" But Izuku stares at her and he's like, "No, I wouldn't. I didn't. But Mom, is it really that wrong of me to just want to know why?" She would look at him and say, "The reason we do it is because we were ordered to, and it increases the strength of our planet." Izuku would nod, saying, "I understand," as he would just kind of sit there, and she would say, "Next time, pretend to be happy." Izuku in this moment would kind of just like sit there, and like she goes to like her room. I'd like to think that there's like an Otsutsuki society. They all live like in these massive white pods with these like super alien looking houses, maybe like an Namekian style house. But anyways, the time would finally come where Izuku would be told to go conquer this planet, and that he has about 10 years to do so, saying that she's giving him plenty of time. Izuku at this moment would look at his mother, nod, as he would begin to fly through the galaxy in search of the planet Earth. When Izuku would find it, Izuku would stare at it as he would think, "It's beautiful. It's so different from the Otsutsuki world, where the sky, in my eyes, probably has like a purple hue to it, and is kind of like, it just looks polluted, and the ground is like red or something like that, with like the little Namekian style houses, and it looks super modernized technology wise and stuff like that." But Izuku, looking down on this planet with one red scythe in hand, would fly down onto the planet, arriving quickly in Japan, where Izuku, looking downward, seeing this massive looking city with a population of multiple people walking around doing their own things, Izuku would stare down at them thinking, how interesting these creatures are. As Izuku definitely, even though he's not exactly like a evil Otsutsuki, he's still an Otsutsuki at the end of the day. So Izuku, looking down, he would think of these beings as being lesser than him. So as he would watch them on for a few moments, this is when suddenly somebody would look up and notice him pointing a finger. All of a sudden, chaos would emerge as the population would start freaking out, running away in tandem. Izuku staring down, thinking that it's absolutely insane that the Otsutsuki reaches even to this backwater planet. Someplace like Earth even knows about him. And as Izuku's sitting there going, "They must be screaming about me," Izuku wouldn't actually be realizing that the person that they're actually freaking out about would be some stupid squid villain that was rampaging with his quirk using the drug trigger. Izuku in this moment, looking downwards, would then spot somebody coming in out of nowhere with the blue and red outfit. This would be All Might, who come rushing in, would smash the villain and send him flying into the air with a gust of wind being created from his punch, as Izuku would stare on being like, whoa, I guess I didn't expect this backwater planet to possess such strength. No matter, he's still weaker than me. It's at this point that Izuku would glide down to see All Might, who then pretty much thanking everybody and catching a glimpse of Izuku like locking eyes, would kind of just do like a gotta go as he would rush off to go stop some more crime elsewhere. But Izuku, following All Might closely behind, would end up pretty much catching him about to de-transform, his time limit about to run out in approximately a couple seconds, as Izuku staring at All Might would say, "You there, what's your name?" All Might looking at him would go, who are you? No time for fans right now. Sorry, I've gotta go. But as All Might would try jumping off, Izuku would be right at his side going, I asked you a question. As All Might staring at Izuku would be like, kid, you're persistent, ain't ya? Alright, fine. He'd start bleeding from his mouth as Izuku, quickly taking note of this, would watch on as the both of them would land. Izuku in this moment, then staring at All Might, would ask him what exactly this planet's deal is. All Might staring at him and being like, what are you talking about? And as Izuku would go on to ask him more and more questions, All Might would stare at him going, are you serious? When suddenly, he would transform into a small Might form, going, look kid, I don't exactly have the time for pranks right now, so why don't you go waltz off somewhere else and try to stop using your quirk? You know it's illegal to use your superpowers out in public. But Izuku hearing that from him would tell him, how dare you speak to me like that, you Earth scum? As All Might would be taken aback by that, with Izuku not even pronouncing the name of their planet right. He would then sit down as he would look at him, seeing the color of his skin, his hair, and even his eyes. He would ask him if he's being dead serious about not knowing what this place is, and Izuku would tell him why in the world would he lie. It's at this point that All Might would ask him if he's really a villain to answer one question. Is he here for peace or war? Izuku in this moment would say, neither, Earthling. I'm here for the utter annihilation of your world. It's at this point that All Might would re-transform to his buff state, throwing a punch so powerful at Izuku that it would change the weather on the top of the roof. However, it'd be in this moment that Izuku, holding one hand out, would have absorbed all the energy behind that punch. Having pretty much looked at his other hand and feeling a course of energy going through his hand, he would think, such an interesting ability. It functions like a stockpiler chakra attack, yes? All Might staring at him would go, what's chakra? And Izuku staring at All Might would question him on why in the world he wouldn't know what that is. He would ask if they're so primitive they don't even understand the basic concept of that. And All Might would go on to tell him that that's not what he used, it's a quirk. Izuku, now staring at him with a bit of a confused expression, would say, alright, quirk aside, what was up with those citizens back there? When they saw me, they didn't scream. Seems to me like the only thing causing them some fear was that ugly looking Earthling. As All Might staring at Izuku would say, yeah, because he was using his quirk as a villain attack. He had attacked somebody. Izuku would pretty much crunch up his chin as he would go, oh, so you guys respond to fear and violence. I think I'm starting to paint a picture. And one more question. When you had came in and you defeated that scumbag, why is it that everybody started cheering? What was it that brought so much hope to their eyes? I want to know. All Might staring at Izuku would say, I wouldn't know what to tell you, young man. I guess they just view me as a symbol of peace. That's all I got for you, really. Izuku hearing that from All Might would question what the heck that is, as All Might would go, well, you see, it's like this. So, in our superhuman society, only a couple of 100 years ago, there was no such thing as these powers that now 80% of the population has. But one person got a power and more people got powers, and now most of us have powers. But some people like to use their powers for evil, for their own selfish purposes. Izuku hearing that would wince, as he would then get an image of the Otsutsuki god, the one responsible for barking orders at them all this time. Izuku in this moment would then stare back at All Might as he would ask him what exactly a hero is and what that entails. All Might would go on to pretty much explain to him what exactly that is, and he would go on to tell him that he wishes to see more of this hero in action. This is when All Might would tell him that he can't do it for today, he's sorry about that, but if he wishes to see another hero, he can show him. Izuku would say, very well, I'll carry you. As he would grab All Might by his outfit on the back and pick him up as if he was some sort of grocery bag. It's at this point that they would soar through the sky for a bit, and All Might would say, there should be a villain attack here, somewhere nearby. This is when Izuku, flying down, would spot a group of villains having robbed the convenience store of all their cash, flying away in a van, when suddenly, the number 2 hero, Endeavor, would come out of nowhere, flame quirk activated, as he would shoot a flash fire fist attack towards the direction of the villains. This attack would land, causing the car to start tumbling and ultimately crash, as Endeavor would round up the villains one by one, followed by people beginning to cheer and a convenience store owner having been given all his cash back. Izuku, staring at the smiles of all of these people, would think, I wish I could. But it's in this moment that he would nod his head no and just pretty much think to himself that if he was to betray the orders of the Otsutsuki god or his mother, he'd be dead meat. It's at this point that he would stare at All Might, thanking him for helping him understand this world. He'd begin flying up into the air as he would charge up a massive chakra-based attack, which is very similar to the 10 Tails bomb, as he would fly up Frieza style with one figure, conjuring this massive chakra attack. Then, once it would grow to the largest size, Endeavor, looking up at Izuku, would fly off towards him, trying to shoot fire at him. But Izuku, with one hand, would absorb all of the chakra from that attack, seeing as these humans don't know it, but their actual abilities are chakra based. That's where quirks come from. Not necessarily from eating a chakra fruit, but because chakra is just kind of all over the universe. It's kind of like the wishy-washy explanation that I'm going to be using for quirks going forward in the story. So as Izuku would absorb Endeavor's blast, this is when the energy beam in his hand would begin growing larger and larger, and he would tell them to say goodbye to their precious city and lives. However, before the attack could land, All Might, shooting into his buff form, would quickly launch to the direction of Izuku, screaming out, "Wait, young man!" It's at this point that Izuku would stop his blast for a second and ask what. All Might would tell him that he hasn't explained everything about Earth quite yet, or even the city. He would tell him that if it could hold off for just a bit longer, he could tell him everything. All Might would then shrink back into a Small Might state, not being able to hold his form much longer, seeing as he had already overused his quirk all day, for 3 hours longer. So, Izuku, staring at All Might, not seeing any lies in his eyes, would think that he has time. After all, it's not like they're going to be surviving whether he kills them next month or today. So, stopping the attack completely, Izuku would pretty much stare at All Might, saying, "I'll humor you, human." And it's at this point that All Might would go on to pretty much take Izuku on a bit of a show and tell day with a skeletal form. People would stare at All Might, with people looking at Izuku and not batting an eye. It's at this point that Izuku would ask All Might why in the world some people in this world look so strange. All Might would laugh as he would go on to tell Izuku that he's one to talk. As Izuku would say, "What's that supposed to mean?" All Might would say, "It just means that in this superhuman society, some people's looks are affected by the powers that they are born with." Izuku would say, "Oh, okay, so some of you are defective." A couple of people would listen to this, and it's at this point that a man who has a mutation quirk would look at Deku and say, "What? You think you look so pretty yourself?" As he would go on to throw a punch at Izuku. However, Izuku would catch it and crush his fist in his hand. As the man, falling to his hands and knees, would say, wait, please, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, you're right. I am a freak. Please, mercy." Izuku, hearing the cries of the man begging for that, would smirk, as All Might, looking at him, would also plead for Izuku to please reconsider. Izuku in this moment would look at the man and say, "Fine, I'll allow you to continue living your meaningless life, but not without a permanent reminder of who you're messing with." It's at this point that All Might would stick his hand out and say, "I can't let you do that. Anything you wish to do to this citizen, please do to me." All Might, knowing the predicament he's in and that this kid is so much more powerful than him, would instantly kind of just bow down on one knee. Izuku, seeing this, would stop, telling him that there's no need, that this guy just got so lucky. It's at this point that he and All Might would end up leaving the area, and All Might would show him more of the world. Izuku would notice that there would definitely be a couple of people staring at him strangely, and All Might would explain to him that in this superhuman society, having that color skin is not exactly the normal. Izuku, staring at All Might, would say, "You know, on my planet, your color skin isn't normal." All Might at this point would tell him, "Wait up, we need to go to my hero agency. There's a couple of things that I forgot to do." Izuku would say, "You know, human, the fate of your universe rests on your shoulders, and you're thinking about work in this moment." All Might would say, "You're right. What if we just go to my house?" Izuku would say, "Your house, eh? Interesting. I can't wait to see what a hero like you lives in." All Might would take them to his big old mansion that he stays at, and Izuku, looking at the house, he would think, "This place is beautiful. It's massive. Does one truly need a place this large when you're that small?" All Might, staring at him, would say, "Yeah, I guess it looks a bit big when I'm in this form, but when I'm in this form, I think it suits me well." Izuku, staring at All Might, would say, "You look like a fool," as he would then de-transform, and Izuku would say, "Go back." It's at this point that All Might would try holding it for a second but fail. All Might would then go on to explain to him that since he's a guest at his house, he was going to be offering him whatever he wanted. He'd ask, "Are you thirsty?" And Izuku in this moment would kind of just stare at All Might as he would nod his head. All Might in this point would pour him a nice cold glass of apple juice. As Izuku sipping on this, his eyes would go wide as he'd go, "What is this concoction?" All Might would explain to him what apple juice is, as Izuku would explain that they don't have any such fruits like this in his planet, that the only things that he could compare this to would be the chakra fruit which he's going to harvest from his planet. Speaking of that, All Might would say, "What exactly is your purpose for destroying our world? Are you just doing it to do it, or is there something you actually gain? Like, is there somebody ordering you to do this?" Izuku, hearing that, would wince as he would say, "I'm doing it on my own volition. Now don't question me about that. But as to why I'm destroying your planet, it's simple. I'm only doing it in order to get a chakra fruit. Once I'm able to harvest that, I'll be able to eat it and my power will grow exponentially. Every world has chakra fruits. However, every chakra fruit isn't the same. Some can be weaker and some can be stronger. And from the way that I've seen your society evolve, after I take this chakra fruit, it'll probably give me such a boost in power that I may even be able to stand up to Mother." It's at this point that All Might, hearing that, would go, "So you were sent by somebody." He'd take a sip of his own drink, which I'm not going to be saying what it is, but I'm pretty sure you can get the gist of it by me saying that, as Izuku, staring at All Might, would ask him why in the world he dares question him. All Might would go on to ask him why in the world he's following these orders if it seems to him like he's not some warmongering killer. Like, yeah, sure, he was going to kill that guy over there, but the only reason he did that was because he had bumped into him and then disrespected him on top of that. He's sure that being looked down upon by somebody much weaker than him does not exactly feel good. And All Might would look out the window going, "I guess I understand that feeling. There's multiple people on the web that like to say a lot of things about my hero career, but you know, as the number one hero, it is my job to stay afloat all that." Izuku, then staring at All Might, would go on to explain to him how he doesn't have much of a choice in the matter, that even though he wouldn't have liked to tell the human, his hand is being forced. All Might would question, "By who? Who's making you do this? Who could be so strong that someone with even your power would shudder at the thought of them?" Izuku would look out the window as he would then pretty much go on to explain to him that in his society, there exists the ultimate being, the Otsutsuki god, saying that legend has it that he's the one responsible for absorbing most of the planets in the solar system, that many of the dead worlds were actually conquered by him. All Might, hearing that, would go, "I've heard about that, but I can't believe it's true. So then that theory that those worlds used to be thriving planets like this one is true." All Might at this point would ask Izuku if he really intends to destroy this world, asking if there's anything that he can do in order to avoid that, telling him that if he does that, billions of people are gonna be dying. And for what? For power? For fruit? Izuku, hearing that, would tell him that it's not his decision to make, but he'll consider maybe giving them more time, so long as they can provide him with entertainment and more of this apple juice. He would start shaking it around in his cup and All Might would go, right away. He'd go get him some more apple juice, pouring him a cup, as he would then go on to pretty much explain to Izuku more about Hero Society, asking multiple questions and Izuku answering them and vice versa. At the end of the night, it'd be super late and All Might would fall asleep unconscious at the table. The dude was overworked and was so worried that he was sweating in his sleep, having a nightmare of Izuku actually destroying the planet. All the while Izuku would watch All Might, he would wonder what exactly has the big guy so freaked out, not knowing that it was him. And Izuku, knowing that nobody was watching, would have a smile on his face as he would look out the window seeing the beautiful planet. He would think, it's a shame. I wouldn't want to destroy a planet like this. It's greenery, even its annoying people. It's kind of endearing. He would look around, and it's at this point that Izuku, looking out the window, would see a random woman walking down the street, as a slight blush would appear on his face and he would think, even the women are beautiful. It's at this point that, staring back at All Might, Izuku would consider whether maybe there's a chance that he could lie to the higher-ups, telling them that he had conquered the world and potentially simply train his chakra to get stronger while he's here. I mean, the likelihood of that happening would be hard, but not impossible. So, as Izuku would ponder this, he would stare at All Might as he would fly up into the sky, exploring the planet on his own. He traveled different continents, seeing the different climate changes that happen in the world, and all by morning, before All Might would wake up, Izuku would be back at the house, with All Might waking up going, I am here! Young man, is there anything that you would like for me to make you for breakfast? Izuku, looking at All Might, would question him on what the heck that is, as All Might would look at him and go, you've never heard of breakfast?
Hey, you made it to the end of the video! Like it or die!
That wasn't the line, Kachan!
Whatever!